So what I've noticed with especially a lot of younger entrepreneurs is it's really kind of a shock to them that they actually have to work, you know?
What's up, everybody? My name is Adam, and I'm the host of the UKnowAdamTsang podcast, the show that is dedicated on bringing on passionate people, learning about their stories, and delivering value to entrepreneurs. So if that's what you're interested in, go ahead and follow, like, and subscribe. You know what I'm saying?
How's it going, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the UKnowAdamTsang podcast, where you get to know just a little bit more about people, passions, and all things business. Today, sitting across the way, I have the entrepreneur himself, Mr. Daniel Dabbs. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Adam, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. It's an absolute pleasure having you here. I've heard your name for quite some time around the Statesboro area, and I'm so excited to hear about your journey. We touched on a few things earlier, but tell me a little bit about, the different projects that you have worked on.
Well, shortly after I moved to Statesboro here in 2007, I had started Varsity Inc., which a lot of people probably remember if they're from the area, which was just really my first venture out of college.
Okay. And Varsity Inc. is like
Varsity Inc. was a screen print company that I started and was actually located right here on the what's I guess effectively known now as the Blue Mile. It didn't exist back then, but I realized pretty quickly out of college that I probably wasn't going to make it in a typical corporate platform. So, had a few things happen there that were pretty eye-opening for me, and I was like, yeah, this is not probably my style. So in 2008, opened Varsity Inc. and did that for many years, I think 9 or 10 years. And, that was a pretty good starter business, I would say, a little incubator, if you will, that we did, I think we peaked out at probably $500,000 in sales annually or whatever. That was a lot of T-shirts, by the way, to print.
Sure, that's a ton.
And we were, proud to have been able to do what we were able to do there, but it just kind of flatlined in terms of, growth.
You felt like you hit like maybe like a ceiling there, or?
Yeah, well, to be honest, like at that time, what I didn't know was the power of online sales and the internet or how to utilize that, right? Like we all use it every day, but it's really hard, I think, for people to understand how to tap into that and generate and monetize it and turn into sales. So, I think because of the types of employees we were hiring, they were mainly, kind of minimum wage, just hourlies.
Sure.
And because that's all I was hiring, we were cycling through those pretty often. They wouldn't stick around long. I'd have to go pick them up. They didn't have their own transportation. I mean, you're an entrepreneur yourself. You're probably familiar, right?
Sure. So restaurant industry.
Yeah, right. Like your turnover rate's probably super high.
That's right. It's something that we challenge.
And mine was too. So kind of in the aftermath of all that, and of course we're talking about it now years later, but you kind of look back and you're like, what did I do wrong and what did I do right? And I found a guy to work for me and kind of do the work in the back, and I just paid him more. Like he didn't really need a job. He just wanted something to do.
Was he older?
He was pretty well off. Yeah, he was an older guy or whatever. But I paid him what he was worth as opposed to what I wanted to pay him.
Yeah,
which is two different things, by the way, right?
Sure.
And he was passionate about his job, and he was. I was very fortunate enough to find him, but because I was able to kind of let go of the reins from kind of what was going on in the back, it freed up just enough space for me to do something else.
Sure.
And that's when the idea for Battlebox was really born. It was like I freed up just a little bit of my own time by paying somebody more money to kind of. Does that make sense at all?
Absolutely. So I want to touch on that.
Yeah.
Was there something that he did that encourage you to say, hey, I want to invest in him? Because I look at it as an investment where
you're right,
this person is going to be somebody that's going to be productive for the organization.
You can just tell usually when you hire somebody, I think probably within the first, I would venture to say usually a couple minutes, but definitely by the end of that first day, you can tell what type of drive that person has, and you probably know, even if you won't admit it, like deep down, whether or not that's going to be a long-term employee or not.
And so, what are you looking for? Because,
you can see, just main thing is drive. intelligence is a huge, it's like kind of hard to come
rare.
by. Yeah, well, like, and common sense it's super rare. Everybody talks about it, but it's like you can be super smart and still just not be able to, do daily tasks in a workplace, right? And so just having, and that's different for every business, right?
Sure.
So I mean, it's really kind of hard to, talk about something globally. Because every business is different.
That's right.
You're looking for something much different in the restaurant industry than I'm looking for. But drive is sort of universal,
That's
right?
right.
And so, just some people just don't work out, and that's
Sure.
okay. They're just in the wrong spot. I think they're looking for income, and you're looking for somebody that, essentially treats your business the way you do.
That's right.
And that's really hard to find if they don't have a vested interest. So how do you get them vested? Well, you can give them promotions and raises and stuff like that. But, man, to find somebody – that's why I say he was pretty rare. Like, to find somebody that, he was still hourly, don't get me wrong, but I was just paying him more than what I was accustomed to
Sure.
for the first time.
Sure.
And I found that for me it worked out really well because what I wasn't having to do anymore was stop, rehire somebody, retrain somebody, and go through that cyclical thing that was really just it sucks a lot of your own time away when you
That's
have to
right.
do that, if you really think about it. So the more you're turning over, the more you're not able to produce or do what it is that you're good at in terms of running the company, right?
There's a huge kind of like belief that I have that I tell a lot of entrepreneurs and discuss that kind of like, sums everything together. And it's this concept that, if we're rating ourselves out of 10, right? When we're working in our own businesses, we put in 10 out of 10, 11 out of 10. We're there. We're putting everything in.
You should be anyway.
That's right. That's what we try,
Yeah.
right? But it's fascinating. The saying goes like this: is the company starts to grow, or you start to grow, when you realize is that somebody's 7 out of 10 is better for you than your 11 out of 10 in that position.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And not to say that we want to like decrease quality, because I don't think that that's the case. But it's so unfair to expect somebody else to be as passionate about your business as you
exactly.
are.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's hard because you do kind of expect it, but it's really not realistic, right?
Exactly.
Unless you give them some sort of vested interest, and we can talk about the importance of that kind of stuff too.
Sure.
But the idea of entrepreneurship is glamorous to pretty much everybody. Like everybody wants to be in that role because I think they see. A lot of these people I call like the must be nicers, right? You pull up in a nice vehicle
Sure.
and they're, man, that must be nice.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't come without hard work or whatever. And so what I've noticed with especially a lot of younger entrepreneurs is it's really kind of a shock to them that they actually have to work. I think that they feel like they're going to be able to walk in the door and finger point and tell people what to do because they had this rare opportunity to become an entrepreneur. It's just not all that rare anymore. The internet, for many reasons, has become sort of like the great equalizer, I think. Like, it doesn't care what color you are. It doesn't care how many dollar sign, zeros in your bank account or whatever. Like, you can be as successful as you want to be with the internet, which is one of the great things about it.
That's right.
And so I think also because of podcasts and YouTube and social media, it's also given a lot of young individuals a false sense of, if you ask people today, or young kids today, what they want to be, they're like, I want to be a YouTube influencer. I want to be a YouTube star. Like, great.
Yeah.
What are you good at?
Yeah.
What are you going to talk about? They don't know. They don't have an answer. So, like, what is your skill set? Well, I don't have any. Okay. So, what are you going to? That's. I think they're driven by monetary motivation. Yeah. And that's kind of like what comes second to your passion, right?
That's right.
But everybody's putting it first.
That's right.
And it takes growing up to realize that like not everything's about dollar signs, right? So.
Absolutely. So back to the story, you've kind of like freed up some time at Varsity Inc. because you have pulled on somebody to your team that's able to kind of like give you a little bit of space. Yeah,
that was the first of many ventures, both good and bad. Some were good, some were good. Like Varsity Inc. was pretty good for us, and then we had some other sort of
failures.
failures.
What made you want to do something new? So, like, what kind of, like, you're running this business, you're growing this business, and all of a sudden there's something that, hey, like, there's this idea that you have, or how does that start?
Originally, kind of going back to what I was just saying, it was probably, driven by monetary, things, like, man, I'm just not, like, this is great, kind of getting along just fine in terms of being able to pay the bills, but still kind of living like paycheck to paycheck, I would say, which most people are, and just really wanted something more. And so I don't think that I was, I guess I kind of always had my eyes out looking for, an opportunity. But, the crazy thing about Statesboro and Bullitt County is it's very small business driven. It's small business and farmers are what has driven this county and community for hundreds of years.
That's right.
So it's not a big opportunity zone when it comes to, like, what are you going to do in Statesboro? You've got to have a restaurant.
That's right.
Or a successful boutique, or the largest two companies in town, I believe, are Walmart and H.A. Sack, right? So, like, unless you work for one of those places, what are you going to do?
That's right.
So you have to be sort of a visionary to be able to be successful around here, and so you kind of have to keep your ear to the ground, figure out what's trending. And I just one day looked on the counter at something that my girlfriend at the time was ordering, which was a Birchbox, and kind of started digging into that. And that was just like a $10 a month makeup subscription.
That's right.
Pretty much just full of samples. I think it was 100% female demographic, right?
Sure.
Or something relatively close. And that is really what sparked the idea. Where I was like, I wonder if there's something out there like this for guys that are interested in things like myself, which was like knives and outdoor gear and stuff like that. And that's really where I sat down, and because of Varsity Inc, graphic design was like second nature for me. So I sat down, hammered out a logo for BattleBox, made sure the domain was available first, and that was kind of, there was a whole page the first day that I started, trying to figure out what the name of this company was going to be, because I had the idea and a vision, but of course you have to have the .com to match, right? So that's really honestly where the E got dropped. BattleBox without the E, it was like BattleBox.com was taken. BattleBox minus the E was not. It just it rolled off the tongue. It seemed like super brandable, easy to remember, and most importantly for me, like, I always start a business with the branding. Like, I cannot get past that part alone. Like, that's the most important part. So once I kind of settled on that, made the logo, and started fleshing out the 4 different tiers for the subscription box or whatever, I built out the website. Never really did that before, but just kind of figured it out. It's not, again, the internet is like an amazing tool if you use it. Like, if you don't know how to do something, watch a tutorial, right? Like, you can do anything you want to.
Love that.
It was, by modern day terms, it was probably pretty laughable, but in 10 days, from concept to hit and go live, I built that website, turned it on, and in 10 days it was live, and I started promoting it. I went on like forums and Facebook, of course, and things like that, and just were, I was trying to reach as many people with this internet tool, right? Like, to get people to buy. And sure enough, like, I'm looking at the orders coming in, and they were flying in. I'm like, what is going on here? I must be on something. And so within the first 2 weeks, we were already shipping to all 50 states. And then by week 3, we had like our first international order or whatever. But I had only used, look, dude, this is the same Amex card that I used back then is what I started the company with probably, I'd say, less than $2,000 worth of the first box contents was put on that card, right? And I was in a fortunate position where I was able to kind of make the boxes look good and professional, because I printed them in the back of the screen print shop, right? So I did kind of have a leg up in terms of that. Not that I needed to, but I was able to make it look like this company was had existed and had been around and was professional, instead of just slapping a label on a box. Where presentation is very important, right? and I know that you know that because I eat it so yummy all the time.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Right? And I mean, it was just there 2 days ago.
Thank you.
So it's always fascinating to me. And you I've never met before today. But I, again, like you said, I was like, I know this AdamTsang guy, and I feel like him and I would get along, right? Because I can tell what's important to you, and things like that. But so that same, so I only ordered enough, I think, for the first 100 boxes or something like that.
But you must have blown through that inventory, like.
Oh yeah, well those orders came through, and I sort of panicked, right? And I turned the website off.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was like, I don't know how to handle this, right? So I turned it off and went to bed one night and woke up the next morning. I was like, what am I doing? Like, I'll just figure it out, and turned it back on, and that's exactly what we did from then on. And I definitely brought some partners in that were. I understood at that point the magnitude of this project that I had started, and I knew I wasn't going to be the only person. I couldn't do it alone, you know. And so I brought in some very good strategic partners. One of which I was already business partners with at Varsity Inc. And I called him. His name's Patrick. We've been like best friends ever since college or whatever. I called Patrick. I'm like, dude, we're going to have to sell all this other stuff. Because we were just kind of messing around with, like I don't know, we had like a bounce house business in Milledgeville that was like sort of fledgling, It was the only one and it was okay. But again, all of this stuff sort of added up to a decent income, but not a great income, And so
how'd you know, right? So like for me, like I'm very much like hold on to multiple different projects and manage the multiple different projects.
Yeah.
But it seemed as if like you had like dug into the ground and then water started to like just like
that was it. You know, I mean, you just when you know, right?
Yeah.
And it was like, but I did. I called them. We had like we were buying back college textbooks. Ever since they were doing that way back in the day, and I somehow ended up like involved in that in some capacity. And so, I was excited. The growth of the company was happening rather rapidly.
Sure.
And so that's when I called him, like, dude, I need your help, and I gave him, I think, if I remember correctly, like 20% of the business. No investment needed. Didn't want him to. I was like, I need your help.
Yeah.
And so that's why he lived in Milledgeville. We had a Varsity Inc. in Milledgeville too at that point. So we had a warehouse that we were able to utilize, and I was like, we're gonna have to like one by one get rid of all this other stuff that's time consuming, And I literally was like, dude, all I need you to do is make sure these things ship on time every month. And he was like, done.
Yeah.
And so brought him on, and then another guy to do kind of the project management, like because I guess my role was pretty much like the visionary. I would do product development. I would find the products that were going to go in the box. And kind of issue those POs and stuff like that. We kind of the front office work, I would say. And John that I brought on board, he would kind of manage all of the tasks that needed to be done. If there was some updating to the website that needed to be done. There was a huge project that we did that took like a year and a half, which was migrating from one platform over to Shopify, which is when you have so much customer data and credit card information and order information or whatever, that making that migration seamless was a huge task that I could talk about for forever, right? But because we didn't want to lose customers.
Yeah.
And if you do that by canceling them and having them subscribe to another, you're going to lose like 80% of your customer base by doing that. So that was a huge task that he just freaking knocked it out of the park with. So anyhow, it's just really important to surround yourself with the right people too. Like you're only as strong as your team, really.
Yeah.
And
talk to me about this visionary piece, right? Because I think for me, what's fascinating is you looked at this birch box, and you kind of like did you kind of like pick it up? Did you open it up, kind of like start exploring it? Were you like, hey, like what, like
not really?
What is this? Okay.
Well, like the idea that was full of it was much smaller than what I created. I mean, it was just samples, But, and this sounds silly to talk about today because it's just not really true. But in my mind at the time, I'm sitting there thinking, I knew they were one of the largest subscription boxes, in the U.S. at least. And I knew what it cost and I knew what was inside of it. That was really it.
Yeah.
And I knew that they were relatively large. So I just threw a number out there in my head, right? I was like, well, if they have 1 million subscribers and they're only profiting $1 per subscriber, well, they're profiting $1 million a month. Like that sounds, because it's a volume based business, right? You don't make any money if you sell 100.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you can get 1 million, like, that's pretty cool. You know? And so that was really kind of like my layman's version of understanding, like this is something this could be really, really huge if you tap into this into a specific niche and you can get people interested in it or whatever. So that was the drive that it took, was like, well, how can we grow this? So, but I took a different approach. So they had that model that was full of samples that I guess most of their partners were giving to them as an advertisement, basically sponsorship advertisement. And so there was like a symbiotic relationship, I guess, that they kind of had, which was different than what I wanted the products that we sent out in Battlebox to be, full blown like retail type size items that you could actually use. And so it really started with this idea of the Knife of the Month Club, which was the largest tier. It was $150 a month at that point, $149.99. But because I knew that was kind of I wasn't even my own customer, I'm like, why would I sign up for a subscription for $150 a month? That's a mystery that I don't even know what I'm going to get. Right?
Sure.
Like, I couldn't even that was too expensive for me, even, because I was like, I'm kind of a cheapskate. Like I wouldn't spend $150 a month on a mystery subscription box or whatever. So, but I created 3 tier levels lower than that too, and they all kind of stacked, right? So, the bottom 2 weren't designed necessarily to be profitable. They were just to be
intro to pull people in.
They would pull people in, but they also kind of helped with the scale of the orders, right? So like even if you weren't profitable on, let's just say we had 5,000 customers that lived in the lower 2 tiers, basic and advanced box, they may not have been profitable for us because they weren't designed to be, but they were important because it got us to these much larger ordering numbers that would drive our costs down.
Makes sense.
So for the first couple of years, the idea wasn't to be profitable on those. It was really just to kind of keep competition at bay because they wouldn't be able to compete with us if we were putting so much cool product in those lower tiers. And so what was kind of unique was everybody across the board on those 4 tiers got the same packing list. So there was almost like a FOMO, like they're getting the same packing list for the top tier levels, and they're going, dang man, I hate that I didn't go a level higher this month. I missed out on this tent or this sleeping bag or this knife as an example or whatever. So as opposed to breaking it down into, well, you got basic box, this is all you got.
Sure.
You got advanced box, this is all you got. So I don't know. We kind of modified as we went, as things were successful and things were not. Marketing is really not that hard. You just kind of you throw a lot of darts at the wall.
Yeah.
But you definitely have to put yourself in the shoes of the target customer and your demographic and try to appeal to them. What is it that makes them click on purchase? Like that's the mindset. You have to close the door, sit down, and kind of get into that mindset when you start to think about marketing to those people.
How important is the previous organizations that you were a part of in giving you the tools or the thought process to be able to execute properly on Battlebox?
Well, I guess it's, being, I kind of taught myself how to do graphic design, right?
Okay.
I had some basic courses, I guess, in college, but
What'd you go to school for?
So art marketing was a degree that I was one of a handful of people at Georgia College and State University of Millersville that was able to get before they I was grandfathered into that program, I guess, before they got rid of it. And so I was able to kind of have a couple art courses like that taught me like basic intro to Adobe, programs like Illustrator and Photoshop. But that's a very institutionalized version of learning how to do things.
Sure.
So they don't teach you how to be an entrepreneur. They teach you like,
How to be an employee.
Yeah, well, yeah, really, kind of. You're exactly right.
I think that's what school is, right?
Yeah.
It really kind of like teaches people how to, go to work and then do a single function.
Do what you're told to do.
Exactly.
Yeah, and do it, when you're talking about these programs or whatever, like, here's how you use these tools,
Yeah.
And so that's what I mean by institutionalized. It's not like, I remember a course saying, okay, this is what we're going to do today. I want you to do it just like this. It was like, watch teacher, copy teacher, but, and even though I was in like a lot of those classes I was in the art department, you would think that creative freedom would be, their goal, but it was still very, do it this way.
Yeah.
It took me many years actually to get out of that program because I didn't. Yeah,
you didn't conform.
I wouldn't, man. They wanted me to have this senior show to get out, and we just couldn't see eye to eye on that. They wanted me to, to have this. They wanted me to create something the way that they wanted me to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, well, you have to do it like this and present it to us, and they had to approve it or whatever, and you got to think about, like, most art schools. I don't know. You've been to an art show, right?
Yeah, I have.
And they, you go in and there's a lot of stuff on the wall, and you listen to the artist kind of BS his way through why he created this stuff, right?
Uh-huh.
And that's exactly they're bullshit artists, man. Because it looks cool, and that's what I couldn't get them to understand. It's like, dude, I don't have a reason why I made this.
Sure.
I just made it because at the time I thought it looked cool.
Yeah.
And I think they wanted me to dig deep and be like, well, this brushstroke, was made because, I remember when I was 10 years old, and Daddy told me to go outside and grab a switch, and it's something like way more emotional than it really was. It's like, dude, it just looks cool.
Yeah.
And they couldn't wrap their head around that. I just wasn't that deep. I was making like ceramic pottery basically just to kind of get through the program, and they wanted something that I wasn't able to provide for them. So I did actually kind of, to get out of there, I did kind of actually have to conform to some degree, and they liked my idea, and I was able to throw it on the wall and make up a bunch of BS, and I got out of there, right? But I just wasn't, I wasn't the typical, art student, I guess. But what I did like about the program was the marketing courses.
You ate that side of it up.
Yeah, well, I mean, they were super easy. I mean, it's really just, we talked earlier about common sense, you know? It's not marketing is not rocket science, so those courses were super easy to me, and I really enjoyed those. So I got the best of both worlds, like to be creative with the art stuff while I was in school, and then with the business side of things with marketing or whatever. So it's a really unique program that I was able to. I don't know how much it, in hindsight, it lent towards my future career, but it definitely. Learning those couple aspects of Adobe Illustrator as an example, I'll tell you, what, working in a screen print company in college for 2 years is what I think gave me the tools to start that company. So like when I knew that some equipment went up for sale back in 2006 or whatever, 2007, I was like, dude, I can do this with my eyes closed. I ran a screen print company in college, and so the experience is what I think actually gave me the tools, And so then taking all that knowledge from creating graphics for that and creating the logo for BattleBox, and then what I became really, really good at was creating new products and the packaging and the design. And so I was constantly on the phone, I say on the phone, on the internet all night long until 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning with China, with our manufacturing partners, because we grew so large. Like nobody had the stuff just sitting on the shelf waiting on Daniel to call. Like we had to go
to the source,
right? And so if I didn't do it, the people that we would call would do it. Gerber, as an example, very well known like knife company. I mean, they make their stuff overseas, so if I pick up the phone and call them, they're picking up the phone and calling China. And so I was able to kind of shave a bunch of costs by going direct to manufacturer with a lot of things, and just create a lot of really our own brands internally. The customer never really knew the difference, but because I made the packaging retail ready. So all these tents, and what I found was we were at first what sounded like a really good idea to brand things with the Battlebox logo because it had created such waves in the subscription box industry. I thought, we can put our own logo on things, whatever, but the customers, it wasn't received really well. Like, I think they thought they were getting hoodwinked or something. And so I just I took that logo off and just started creating others. And suddenly it's the greatest thing ever. It's all perception, man. Perception of value.
That's so fascinating. Like that, the fact that like if you started taking the actual Battlebox, they think that you're kind of like giving them like inferior product. Yeah,
it seemed like, I guess they didn't like the idea of thinking that we were like making money off of them.
Yeah.
Or something, it's kind of funny, really, right? But it was like Battlebox. What I learned in doing that and why we pivoted was like Battlebox was a subscription box company.
Yeah.
And it was going to be a subscription box company, no matter how cool the products were that I created under that label. But so as soon as I struck that out and put something different on it, I mean, there's a ton of companies that I came up with out of the blue.
Yeah.
Like Lord and Field and Cali Loha and Warpath Knives and just a slew of different brands that once we shipped to the customer, just because it didn't say Battlebox, had a different logo, different packaging,
ate it up.
It got glowing reviews by everybody.
Wow.
So it's kind of fascinating, but that's how easy it is to pivot too. Like when something's not working and you see that it's not, dude, just change it. You just change it just that quick, and it made all the difference in the world.
Yeah. So, going back to the story, you start growing, you pull on key individuals to kind of like help you build this company. Mm-hmm. What happens next? Are you kind of like just like what do sales look like? What is like percentage of growth? Like what does that look like in the first 1 or 2 years? Yeah. So, going from memory now, so I think that first year we probably did, I don't know, 3 or 4 million in that first year. First year, 3 to 4 million.
Yeah, something crazy like that. Yeah, so in 2000, that would have been 2015. So I started the company. I remember I still got all the original stuff. So it was like January 31st, I think, of 2015. Because I can go back like in GoDaddy and see like when I bought the domain name.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool, when you see this stuff. And especially when it had that much success, because you go back to the beginning and you're like, wow, what were we doing? And like I was talking about, our website was super janky, right? But it worked. And so there were so many modifications of that at the time over the years. So
what was going through your mind at that point? Like when you were like, taking a step back and looking at like just this
crazy how fast everything happened, because these are figures that we've never dealt with before.
Yeah.
So we made a ton of financial mistakes along the way, because we didn't know what we were doing, really. Like we had to figure it all out. We're just a bunch of old, college buddies that, are doing something really cool all of a sudden. But one thing that I didn't mention was I just one of the key ingredients there, not just my key executive members, my executive team, as well as the employees, the guys in the back, and that were kind of college students packing the boxes. Everybody's important, like nobody. There is a hierarchy, but again, like one doesn't exist without the other, right?
That's right.
Like, so we were building this really cool brand, and a guy reached out. His name's Brandon Curran, and guy had reached out and he was starting his own YouTube channel, and he wanted to do some unboxings and stuff like that. And so he was one of the many comped boxes that we would send out every month. And his channel started to grow because he's just got this stellar, online personality.
Yeah, he's
like
great.
When the camera comes on, he's got those funny redneck one-liners that everybody loves. And so for many years his channel was growing, and I basically brought him on. We attached ourselves to his videos. His videos were the ones that we were publishing on our own website. And
was he like a buddy, or how did he kind of get involved?
I like to build relationships with people. Sure. I talk, as if you can't tell, I talk way too much.
No.
So him and I got on the phone, and we were passionate about what I was selling, what he was receiving. We were talking about how cool it was. It's just like two dudes that just couldn't get enough about talking about all this stuff, and it was also exciting because of the growth or whatever. So the passion for the product was one thing, but the success of it was I don't know. It just came. I don't know. I think maybe it was portrayed through his types of videos and his excitement, and it came through with the quality of the product that we were sending out too. And so, but that was like a huge portion of it. It's like I, for one, I can speak for myself. Like I was extremely passionate about what it was we were doing. I didn't take time to like sit back and go, well, is there another company out there like this? Like, what do I have to do? I just started building.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a problem for me now, because now I have like this this need to be like this like OCD of perfection, right? Where it's like all these other companies I want to build, I don't.
You feel the pressure?
I don't just throw out there now. Yeah, I think so. Like the pressure for it to be like equally as successful, but it also kind of hinders like the ability to move forward. I didn't have that with BattleBox. In the beginning, I just launched it, and I didn't care whether there was a competitor out there or something.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a problem. I need to, and I recognize that, so I try not to be, let that hinder me from starting something.
What advice would you have for people that like that look at entrepreneurship, that want to be an entrepreneur, right? Like I think your story is very inspiring, because there's oftentimes so much excuses that are made.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I don't know how to design, or oh, I don't know how to do the website, or all these different factors, right? But for you saw that as kind of like just something to kind of like work through to get to that next point. But what advice would you give, somebody that's maybe just starting out that wants to step into that field?
Well, I mean, going back to what we were just talking about, like you have to be passionate about what it is that you're wanting to do first, right? Like otherwise, if your customers, I mean, it comes across whether you like it or you don't. Like if you're passionate about something, it comes across. Like the finished product looks better, the way you talk about the company, your excitement level, all that stuff is directly related to, I think, the success of a company. And by the way, success is, my definition of success is probably not the same as yours, right? Because I could go on talking about that in and of itself, right? But, so what is it that you're wanting to achieve? Are you passionate about what it is that you're doing? Don't just do it because, like I was talking about kids, I just want to be a YouTube star. Well, it's monetary driven. That's all they see is they know that these people like, Mr. Beast. You hear all this stuff. I've never even watched a video of his, but I know that kids talk about it because they know he's uber loaded or something.
Yeah.
I guess like YouTube throws money at this guy or whatever. So, but that shouldn't be your drive, and do something that you love first. And you've always heard the old adage, right? Like, it's not if you do something you love and you never work a day in your life, kind of thing, right? And but that's really true. Like it really wasn't work. I know that I loved going to work, and but then because of its growth, there was a transition period because then it became work because somebody had to do it. So it got really big really fast.
How long before that happened?
It was several years, I think, but it just kind of got overwhelming, I think, a little bit, because, I was cranking up all these other businesses. So BattleBox was the first subscription box, followed by Barbecue Box.
So you started launching other
subscriptions. Yeah. I realized the power in this recurring revenue model, and given the opportunity, when somebody's trying to figure out how to increase sales, whatever, that's usually the first thing I tell them is like, dude, figure out how to turn your business into a recurring revenue, because once you got that card and you're just processing it every month, even better than the recurring revenue is one that's not necessarily a physical product that you're sending to somebody, but just like a service.
That's right. That's right.
Because your cost of goods is much lower, almost non-existent, right? Some people have a service where they just send an email for X amount of dollars a month. Those are fabulous, just ways to, really just to make money. You can do it, But
so you have
BattleBox, Barbecue Box. There was one that I bought somewhere along the line called Crate Club. We had one called Carnivore Club, which was a charcuterie subscription. And so like they just kept going, and I started a company called Grenade Soap, which was kind of like a men's what I called a men's tactical toiletry company or whatever. I mean, whatever even that means, right?
Sure.
But these ideas sort of stemmed out of a need for products to fill in Battlebox originally or whatever, and they just kept going. And so I was addicted really to like starting companies and trying to build successful brands, which I love doing. But I was just doing too much of it, and I'm kind of reached this point where I was like working 120 hours a week, and just needed to do something different. And I realized I kind of woke up one day, honing in on 40 years old, and realized that what I had done was sacrificed, having like, normal long-term like relationships with people for working a lot, like a lot,
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where all this gray hair I think came from, right? So, but so yeah, it was several years. So going back, like I brought Brandon Curran on board, and he lived in North Carolina. We moved him down. He now lives in Portal, a couple, not even a mile, I think, from my house, and kind of made him the face of the company.
Uh-huh.
And somewhere along the way, because of the growth and because of our recognition in the subscription box industry as a whole, I think we were making waves, I guess, because we were doing things way differently than everybody else. We had, $150 a month subscription, at the volume that we were doing was kind of unheard of.
How many subscribers did you have at that level?
Back then I think we were probably somewhere in 12, like it ebbed and flowed, of course, probably 12,000, 15,000, somewhere in there, which isn't as much, I think, as people expect it to be, because people talk to me and they're like, yeah, you guys must have 50,000 subscribers or whatever. It's like, no, I wish we did, but it's
with this, you don't need that many, right? Like the thing about it is like, as long as you have, because that's reoccurring revenue every single month.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with I'd say kind of in our sweet spot, of 12,000 to 14,000 subscribers. I mean, we were doing probably $21 million a year is what we grew to. So when you ask like the percentages, I mean, yeah, it started at 3 to 4, and then it went to 10, then it went to 15, and it just kind of kept going. But I knew that there'd be a cap on it, right? Like you couldn't. So the competitors, because of the success of BattleBox, obviously competitors were coming out of the woodwork, and a lot of those people came out swinging and just dumped a ton of money into Facebook advertising and marketing and this, that, and the other. But they also disappeared rather quickly because it's not scalable at that
Sure.
rate. You can't just, what ends up happening is you end up buying, basically promotional product items, like to fill the boxes
Sure.
with. Nobody wants to get a hat with your logo on it, 3 times in a row.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
Or pins or koozies.
Quality.
Like that wasn't what our mission was with the box. So so we saw these competitors kind of come and go because they were either too small or too big, and we kind of understood that like we need to scale that growth and control it. Controlled scale growth, right? Because we could have turned it on and cranked the volume up in terms of Facebook advertising if we wanted to. I mean, we had to figure that out, anyway, somewhere along the line. I mean, when I started BattleBox, I think we were onboarding customers or converting them, as we call them, at a rate of like $9 per conversion. And by the time I left the company, I think we were paying closer to $90 per conversion. So
is that just because it's become more competitive and more like?
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the natural way, right? Like when advertising first starts, it's relatively affordable. Then everybody realizes that that's the opportunity.
Yeah.
Everybody jumps in, and then it just becomes.
Yeah, I mean, sort of. Facebook advertising at that time. I mean, I hate to say it was kind of in its infancy. It at least was for us.
Sure.
At $9 per conversion, that's great. But at 90, you kind of start thinking about how important that subscription model is, because you got to keep those guys around for 9 to 12 months before you're profitable.
Yeah.
I mean, because the profit margins were not designed to be typical 50% margins in the subscription box business, right?
Yeah.
And so you want to keep them around longer than just 1 month.
That's right.
You want to, trying to explain that to people. Because eventually the company was bought, and I sold it back in like October 2021, and the new company that bought it was a was a Canadian company that was publicly traded, and I talked many times with the CEO of that company, Emerge, and I was like, dude, these guys are just numbers guys. They don't really care so much about the business itself. They care about dollars, honestly. And so I kept telling them, like, this is not a 50% margin type business, whatever. Do you want to make, just using an example, like, do you want to make $100 one time, or do you want to make $30 24 times? Which one would you rather have?
Yeah.
I mean, that's
no-brainer.
It is a no-brainer, but you can't really get these guys that are looking at sheets to understand that. I think sometimes because they've got other people to answer to or whatever.
That's right.
And I think that was probably not the best purchase of theirs, but that's okay. They can do whatever they want at that point.
That's a nice exit for you, though.
Yeah, I mean, that was all. Honestly, the goal was to kind of build it to its maximum potential, and then sort of get off while the getting's good. I mean, I'm not the type of guy that's going to go down with the ship. Not saying it ever would, but you want to get to the maximum and then get off and then do something else.
That's
so I was very fortunate to be able to do that. Again, that only came from the surrounding team that I had that was able to kind of, like I said, dude, we made a lot of mistakes in business. A lot of them actually financial. Like, dude, we were dealing with a lot of money that we had never dealt with before on that scale. So we really kind of had to figure that out and sort of train ourselves. And fortunately, we were able to overcome a lot of maybe bad business decisions, that would probably be, a whole nother podcast, right? Honestly. But, we're just talking about, like, from an introductory standpoint here, it's, we didn't do everything right, but that's okay, as long as you're able to kind of recognize. I mean, nothing's perfect. There's no formula for, like, I think everybody's like, well, what is, what's the formula for success? Like, there isn't one.
Sure.
There really, every business is different. Every opportunity is different. Every partnership is different. Like, there's no actual formula. You just have to figure out what works for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When you stepped into this business, I'm sure the industry was very fresh, right? Because no one had. You were definitely an innovator, right? Like to kind of like step into that, because there's no one else that had a men's subscription at that point. Is that correct?
I think that there were probably other men's subscriptions. What's more fascinating to me is that we were able to be as successful as we were with that particular company, Battlebox, because it was just, in its beginning, it was survival and tactical gear.
Yeah.
And I kind of had to change that tagline because of the way that we were not able to market. Tactical became like this bad word in social media land. And so, I pivoted from that, and we turned it into survival and outdoor gear, which opened it up into just like a whole nother genre of types of products that we were able to put in the box. And it was like a huge game changer, I think, for the business. But even still, like, being largely like a survival gear subscription box, in the grand scheme of things, is a pretty small niche.
Sure.
And so that I think is what was the most fascinating. I think what people try to wrap their head around is just like, well, how many people are into this kind of stuff?
Sure.
But what was great about it was that it stood the test of time when it came to, you have like every couple of years you're dealing with, some political issue and sales kind of go up, and then COVID happened.
Oh, that's so interesting.
And sales went up or whatever. So while everybody else was sort of struggling through these times, we, in that particular industry, for whatever reason, we were fortunate enough to be in it because we would excel in those times,
So what is your view on luck? Is luck an important part of business?
I don't know that it's luck necessarily. I mean, I think kind of understanding that there's, like striking while iron's hot. Like you said, like I noticed a trend in this subscription model, and I kind of was able to crank that up and get started relatively quickly. And then shortly after that, it's what I call the subscription box boom of like 2017. And you saw so many come out at that point. It was like, it was silly, right? It was like everybody was coming out with a subscription that was like, let's get a box of wood. I don't know. I mean, I'm being facetious, but it was like everybody thought they had this grand idea of like what the next best subscription was going to be because the barrier to entry was not. I mean, the reason why I was able to do it so quickly was because the barrier of entry was not that difficult. Like,
sure.
You just buy a domain, crank up a website. There's a million different, website development companies that make it super easy, template based, drop, fill in some ad copy here, right? So, but that was pretty detrimental, I think, to our business because all of these kind of fly-by-night companies were advertising to the masses, all you just call them U.S. citizens, right? And then when they were doing kind of a piss-poor job of it, they put a sour taste into consumers' mouths of the subscription box industry. So we kind of had to overcome that. I think that's also where that increase in ad spend came from.
Yeah.
It was because everybody was flooding, particularly Facebook. I'm not saying that was our only source of ad revenue. I mean, our source of, marketing, I should say. But because we went into everything that we could, from starting with affiliate marketing programs from beginning to YouTube, to Twitter, which I don't even use, to TikTok, which I also don't even use. But like these social media pages of ours just continue to grow and grow. I think our TikTok now has, I don't know, like maybe 1 million followers or something. I don't know. Last time I looked, it was honing in on it anyway. So, but that's because Brandon's so good at what he does with the content and stuff like that. So I made him, the face of the company, and somewhere along the line, because of him being because we were publishing so much content, and because he's so likable or whatever, somebody had reached out and asked if we wanted to have if we were interested in something related like a TV show or whatever. And we kind of seen some of these things come through email that it kind of looked like spam a little bit, right? Especially because there's this one guy, Kevin, I can't remember his name. He was one of the original Shark Tank guys.
Kevin O'Leary?
Not O'Leary.
Okay.
No, he was on like season 1 or 2, and then he's not on that anymore. But he sort of exploits that his short
authority
tenure there, to market to people. And he's like, one of the original Shark Tank guys. So you see this come across your inbox, and you get on a couple calls with him, and ultimately it's like another money making scheme for him. It's like, we're gonna film some stuff for you. I think his whole thing is like as seen on TV, right, or whatever. And so, things like that hit your inbox routinely, and you just kind of become numb to a lot of maybe opportunities that come through. And so a couple of these things came through. And this one in particular, I remember forwarding to Brandon, I think, and being like, hey, man, feel these people out, see if it is realistic or whatever. And after several conversations, he was like, yeah, I think they want to come out and film a Sizzle Reel. I'm like, really? And so we had just
Sizzle Reel,
yeah, to kind of.
It's like a pilot?
Sort of, yeah. Not necessarily. It was because we didn't really have a format of anything. It was just like a bunch of rednecks in Floral, Georgia, just like blowing stuff up and figuring out a way how to make a TV show out of this or whatever. But it was so it came out. We just spent a day just filming a bunch of crazy stuff, and it became, in essence, a pilot, right? Effectively known as a Sizzle Reel. That this company. High Noon Productions is who it actually was, which was most well known for their biggest show was the Chip and Joanna Gaines show.
I don't know that one.
It's the Farmhouse Show, whatever they call it. I don't know, Magnolia something or other, Magnolia Home or something. But Fixer Upper.
Okay.
Yeah, you definitely heard of it. I always can't remember. I always think Chip and Joanna Gaines, but that was their biggest series at the time, and Cake Boss and a bunch of other things, whatever.
Okay.
So they had. Some clout for me to at least start listening to them. So they came out, filmed that, and then they used that to kind of pitch it to, I think originally it was like History Channel was what actually wanted to film that Sizzle. And so I think they actually paid for it. They passed on it, and then I think it went to Discovery Channel, and we don't live in Alaska, so that wasn't going to work. That's like the only thing that Discovery Channel films. Like I think if you just go into Alaska, you fly in, and it just says Discovery Channel like at the airport or something. Hey, that's my vision anyway. Like if you think about it, that's all they film up there. But And then it kind of they went quiet for a little while. Nobody was really picking it up. And then they had a meeting with Netflix, and before they even got out of the building, the execs over at High Noon called us, super excited. They're like, "We're in the elevator headed down. We just had an awesome meeting with Netflix, and they love it. They want to start as soon as possible, kind of thing, or whatever." So that was pretty exciting. So we were I don't know, man. It all happened, like I said, it all happened so fast. It was just kind of like, yeah, let's do that. So I just bought this property in Portal and built us a shop to work out of that kind of gave me the ability to be creative. We didn't have to ask for permission to go out on somebody's land anymore and put up a tent for. I mean, we were generating a lot of content, so we needed our own place to do that, and so. With that first 75 acres that I bought there or whatever, it also gave us, and the building that I just built, it lent itself really well to having a TV series out there. So, not that I was any good at it, but we definitely filmed. They showed up, and for like 6 months, they practically moved in with me, and we filmed enough for the first 8 episodes of that one and only season that we did, but that was fine. It also kind of helped propel. So COVID happened, our business, kind of grew, and then Southern Survival is what the show was that came out, and it actually was like in the top 10 for the first couple of weeks on Netflix. That's awesome. And that kind of propelled it a little bit more. Not in these like amazingly large numbers that I think people thought it was going to be. I kept telling everybody, all my friends, like, dude, this is going to be huge. You're going to be like those Duck Dynasty guys. I mean, I don't think we're going to be anywhere near that entertaining. Of course, we don't have a Cy, Uncle Cy. But Brandon, like I said, when the camera comes on, he just absolutely excels at that kind of stuff. And you definitely don't turn down the opportunity. I mean, I want to be behind the camera, being creative, not necessarily in front of the camera. But when the opportunity presents itself, and you have I don't know how many countries Netflix actually. That's crazy. It's like 130 across the world or something like that. So do you
ship? Did BattleBox ship across the entire world?
So one of those pivotal things that I was talking about to you was that at first we did have a decent sized audience overseas, but there was just something that happened along the line that just made me feel very uncomfortable about it, mainly because some of the products that we were sending, some people like to refer to as weapons. We never called them that. We call knives tools.
Sure.
You can't build this building without a sharp blade, as an example. But that's a debate that we a lot of times wouldn't win when it comes to like Facebook and stuff like that, which is a whole nother challenge, by the way, with getting our ad accounts shut off constantly. It was just the industry that we were in, and so we never promoted anything as weapons, or used them as weapons by any means. But when I noticed like some of the addresses and names and things like that were on these boxes that we were shipping things to, it made me feel very uncomfortable for like the, being a patriot of America. Like, we might be arming the wrong people with some stuff. So it didn't make me feel good. So we pretty much just abandoned that, shut it off, and shifted to the 50 United States and Canada, and so we kind of left it at that.
Got you.
And that was pretty good. I think it was a good move,
That's
for
awesome.
the company. And so we just did a lot of really cool like first for us. I mean, we continued to just try to do things different. Every day I went to work, I kind of carried this mantra that I made up that was like, basically there's nothing that says you can't. I think a lot of people's vision from like being a successful entrepreneur is like working in, some 20th story high rise in Buckhead or in Atlanta and, wearing the suit and tie or whatever. And that's just not our flavor.
Yeah.
And so I built a place where I think it was super unique for my employees to come to work, and if they were having a bad day, customer service was very important to us. So my buddy Steve, he'd come in my office, shaking his head, just getting hammered with customer service emails because our customers are so passionate about our product they were shipping. They were also kind of angry if it would didn't ship on time. You're talking about some pretty aggressive folks in our industry there. So he would just get beat down. I'm like, dude, I built this place where he was able to, as an example, go hop on a 4-wheeler and go blow off some steam, go back to the shooting range and shoot a pistol, hop in a kayak, and float around the pond for a few minutes or whatever. And I think that was I'm very proud to say that I was able to build a company that we were kind of able to do whatever we wanted to do without conforming to like what the normal business model would be.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does.
It's just it was unique.
Yeah.
And I like that uniqueness about it. Like, you don't have to wear suit pants to work out here. We're just a bunch of regular dudes. Wear what you want.
What's kind of on the horizon for you? Like, what's the future look like?
Well, I'm kind of in limbo at the moment. I'm kind of finishing unfinished projects, like things that were kind of never completed, around the house projects kind of thing, and kind of gotten into pickleball lately.
Hey.
So built a pickleball court, and we're just building relationships with people. I found kind of after many years a long hiatus because of maybe just not focusing my attention in the right areas. Kind of found my faith again, and that's just like uber important, way more important than
Amen.
dollar signs and success and all that good stuff. But so really just kind of honing in on more important things in life, and I feel very fortunate to have been able to get to that point in my life to where I can take a kind of look at myself from a 30,000 foot view, and be like, dude, what are you doing? Where are you headed? Yes, you've done all these great things, but what's next, kind of thing. And so I'm looking forward. I'll probably, if I had to guess, crank up another subscription box or something in that capacity. Again, talking about the idea of recurring revenue, I think is definitely what I'm good at,
sure.
and marketing, and or maybe in the immediate future, maybe just doing some consulting with people that need help in those areas. I mean, for me, when it comes to marketing, I could look at something really, relatively quickly and be like, that's an absolute no, that horrible idea. Don't do that. And and maybe there's a part of me that wishes that somebody had done that for me. I see around town sometimes, I see these things pop up that people have like invested their like life savings in or whatever. I'm like, oh, that is not a good idea. Like somebody should have told you this before you go wasting a bunch of your money. Like, everybody should have the same opportunity to do whatever it is they want. Some ideas just aren't that good. Like you have to start with it. I mean,
that's right.
You have to start with a good idea and go from there.
That's right.
And I don't know. I'm looking forward to what's next. I'm not sure. Some ideas, but nothing really solid right now. I'm kind of privy to a non-compete at the moment that kind of keeps me making sure that I'm doing my part contractually, and then we'll see what happens from there.
Daniel, I have to thank you for coming on to the show. I think for me, what is the most inspirational about your story was the fact that you did you in terms of staying true to your path and not conforming to kind of like what everybody else expects of an entrepreneur, and you built it your way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you had an impact on the entire United States and Canada from this small place in Statesboro, Georgia, right?
Yeah.
In this area, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's something that is oftentimes, people think that, I have to move in order to have an impact.
Mm-hmm.
I have to go to the big city. I have to, go to all these various different places. But for you, your story is very much not that case. You said,
right.
Hey, I'm going to do me.
Mm-hmm.
And because there is this phenomenal thing called the internet, I'm going to allow this thing to kind of like grow.
Yeah,
and
man.
That's huge.
Exactly. Yeah, the internet, like I think I told you earlier, maybe before the microphones were even turned on, I call the internet the great equalizer. Nobody cares where you're from, what color you are, what kind of car you drive, as an example. Like if you have the energy and the capacity to tap into that, and you have a good idea and you work hard at it, you can literally do anything you want.
Absolutely. That's an awesome message. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks
Cool.
for having me. All right, brother.